Welcome to the Lesson 2 Science and Space Review Question and Answer video. Question 1. What is the main idea of this section? Summarize the key points in 2 or 3 sentences. Remember that this question is always, or almost always, the first question you get in a section. So what was the main idea? Was it the space telescope? Was it gravity? Was it mass? We need to think about it as the actual content, not the example that was used. So the main idea of section 2 is that forces are all around us. Forces are related to an object's motion. Some examples of forces are balanced and unbalanced forces. Unbalanced forces cause objects to change their motion, while balanced forces keep an object still. Gravity is another example of a force. Gravitational force keeps planets like Earth in orbit around the sun. So what were some examples used in the text to support the main idea of the section? So here's where you can talk about the telescope or a basketball, whatever the examples were in the textbook. So the text gives the example of Earth's motion around the sun to explain how the sun's gravity changes the motion of Earth, because the pull of the sun's gravity is so strong that it provides an unbalanced force that pulls Earth into orbit around it. That sounded like a lot of scientific terms, so let's break it down. Earth moves around the sun. We know that. It orbits around the sun. But it stays in that orbit and motion because the sun's gravity changes our motion of Earth. It keeps us moving because the sun is so much bigger than Earth and gives us that unbalanced force. Question 3. How does the text explain the relationship between gravity and motion? The text focuses on the force of gravity here on Earth and in the solar system to explain the relationship between gravity and motion. For example, when someone is standing on the ground, gravity pulls on them. However, the ground pushes back with the same amount of force. This means that the forces acting on the person are balanced, and so the person will remain stationary. If the ground did not push back with the same amount of force, the person would fall into the ground because the forces would be unbalanced. Gravity would pull down with a greater force than the force of the ground pushing back up. And question 4. How does the text connect the fact that astronauts, and possibly those zebrafish, lose muscle mass in space with the force of gravity? The text connects the fact that astronauts, and probably zebrafish, lose muscle mass in space with the force of gravity. On Earth, we have to use our muscles just to stand up against the downward pull of gravity. This requires our bodies to maintain enough muscle to support our own weight. In the low-gravity environment of space, astronauts lose muscle mass since it is not required to support their weight